Can't tell if the piano's out of tune or if I'm just not that good anymore. I haven't practiced in so long, but I will show you how to play the piano. I've successfully taught, I think, 22 to 25 of my friends or students or randoms who will just listen. And it's a very simple lesson I learned once in Los Angeles. And just like the guitar, I came back to it, I think, a year or two later when I was like not feeling that great. And my dream when I was younger, I was like, I just want my own place with a nice piano in it so I can wake up, have a coffee, and just play. And then one day I got that, and I didn't realize that I'd got that. And then I told my friend, I was like, sometimes you just subconsciously do life, and then you have to remind yourself and be aware, oh wow, I have the thing that I wanted when I was a kid, which is cool. It's a green piano, which I just sold, by the way, to a lovely young beautiful lady in Los Angeles, and I hope it makes her very happy. And what else? Yeah, when I was younger and I used to visit like my cousins, I remember going to his room. He's like an older guy, and I remember as a kid seeing he had a contact case, a Michael Jordan poster, and he had dumbbells. And I remember when I saw that as a kid, I was like, see, that's a sign of an adult. That's a sign of a grown-up. And then one day, I didn't realize this, and I'd been years into it, but I had a contact case, I had dumbbells, and I had a poster of, I don't know who, not a sports guy, but I had posters. And I was like, oh, I became that thing. You just keep moving along in life and you never notice that you are now becoming that thing, which is then interesting if you want to view it in a larger sense. I mean, that same person got into like investing as he got older. I'm like, yeah, well, that's the thing you do when you get older. You're like curious about that and you're less curious about other things. You are moving into a new section of life. I'm trying to create a neologism for it, which is like a new word for that. I have a whole thing mapped out on how we are not experiencing, we are just moving through like a sausage in a sausage casing, and this is childhood, whatever, and I'll explain it more clearly in another episode. Hi honey, how are you? It's your father here. Hope you're having a good day. If you're not, we'll make it better, and if you are, that's great. 早上好, which means good morning. It's morning here. In the first couple episodes, I'm not sure how to succinctly explain this, and as Feynman says, if you can't teach it, you probably don't know it, but it makes sense to me in my head, which is that I want to show you things that can be used as a thing that sort of permeates your whole life, and you'll know how to conduct yourself based on this information, this hard data. And if you don't have these, I feel like you're going to be looking at life not wrongly, but not as correctly as it could be. Let's give you some specifics here, okay? This episode is about the cosmic calendar. So humans, for the vast majority of our existence, you're a Homo sapien, which means that you are a wise man. Sapiens means wise. You use your brain. That's your greatest strength, is to use your brain in your wisdom. So the three greatest strengths of a human are, do you want to guess? You can guess. If you want to stop it here, you can guess. Did you stop it? Okay. The three greatest things that you have that are like a leverage feature of your species are, in no particular order, well, maybe. One is you have an opposable thumb. So that, if you look at a dog or like a pig or a horse or a fish, this is not a feature that they have. And some monkeys have this, especially on their foots. I can't say the word foot plural, it grosses me out. You have an opposable thumb. Why that's important is because you can now physically manipulate the world you're in. Homo habilis, right? The handyman. The other one is you have sharp eyesight, especially as compared to other species. Certain species don't have great eyesight. They have a great sense of smell or hearing, things like that. But you have a great sense of sight relative to other animals. So that's great because now you can assess your world. Yeah? And the last one, which is probably the most important, is your ability to communicate. I think humans can communicate on average about 4,000 words, I think. Don't quote me on that. We can go find the real data. And if you look at an ape like Coco, who I think passed away, he knew about 40 or 400 words, something like that. We can look it up. But your ability to communicate and to communicate your complex ideas and strategies is critically important. So back in our ancestors' days, like the Clovis people, or even beyond that, like the out of Africa tribe, your ability to communicate to your tribe, let's make rope. Rope is one of the most unsung heroes in innovation. Everyone talks about the wheel, but the rope is actually like a complicated thing when you think about it, to take your twine or to take something. In Kerala, I think there's something called choir or like koi or something like that. And it's made out of coconut husk. And that's critically important because you can tie things together. You can tie something up. You can hang something to dry. You can use it to create a net. So say you have rope, you created a net, and now you communicate to your tribe. You four hide in the bushes here. You make a lot of noise and scare that gazelle to run the other way. We'll hide here, and then we'll go lift the net up, and then we'll catch the gazelle. So then we can all eat, you see? So that's like a pretty primitive way to communicate like a complicated idea. And now that could be something like Series A funding for a startup, and then you have stocks issued, and then you do like a leveraged buyout or like a hostile takeover or like a bear hug of like a company, and then you create a conglomerate like Berkshire Hathaway with your acquisitions. So this is like essentially the same as you communicating a complex idea to go get the gazelle so that everybody eats. Now you're trying to create this large company with something that isn't quite there, like stocks, which is a tangible thing. But you see what I'm saying, yeah? I have a script about this called Erectus, which you could make if you want to. It's about showing that the same genes and the same behavior last throughout prehistoric era, from like primeval era to modern day man to futuristic, Kardashev type 1 civilizations, Kardashev type 5 civilizations, things like that. All right, so I like how I tried to keep this short. Now we're talking about all this. So those are your 3 greatest features. Why did I even say that? Oh, because for the vast majority of your species existence, our species existence, we didn't need to know numbers like millions, billions. These numbers were unnecessary to even fathom. Why? Because you're talking about, I got 4 fish, I have 1 spear, I have 3 husbands, I live in that 1 tent, we have 9 kids. See how all the numbers were so far sub 10? Or you might say, we go to those 3 mountains. So there's nothing that you really need to discuss in terms of millions or especially billions. You can say there's millions of blades of grass in this field, but you probably won't be describing that. It's only as we started the scientific revolution that we started understanding things like there are atoms, or like logarithmic numbers, or like Avogadro's number, or there are millions of stars in the skies. No, wait, there are billions of stars in the skies. No, wait, there are trillions of stars in the skies. Well, then how many galaxies are there? Billions. And as Sagan was faulted on, which he said he never said, billions and billions. That's a very famous, controversial thing from the 80s.
Who said billions and billions?
That I can answer very quickly. It's someone named Johnny Carson. I never said it. I never, ever said it.
He's off the hook, everybody.
I think from the 80s when Sagan was around. And I started this video with a Sagan quote. He is one of my heroes, and we'll talk in another episode why heroes are kind of dangerous, but he is one of my heroes, and I can't wait to introduce you to all of his work. He is the best. Unfortunately, all my heroes die seemingly like 20 years too early. Christopher Hitchens, Sagan, I wish these men and women were still around to like advise and to calm us down. Anyway, so you didn't need to know numbers like millions and billions. So it's hard for your 3-pound brain to fathom what that number is. Even now, somebody will go like, he's a billionaire. No, actually, a millionaire. He's $1 million. And me as a science and math type, I'm like, there's a huge difference. And I don't think that person understands that difference. So scientists always poorly try to explain in some way that we understand. They'll go, oh, it's like you put a grain of rice every day, and if you stack those grains of rice, you reach them. It's like nobody's thinking in terms of grains of rice. Then they'll go, it's like stacking 19 football fields long at the height of the, like, no one's quite thinking in terms of how large a football field is. Everyone's kind of confused. From here to the moon is like stacking one school bus on top of another vertically, and there's it's like, okay, who's thinking in terms of school bus? So like scientists always desperately try to help us find some way to, I think it's called pedagogical, to be able to visualize that. Now that we know more things in science, like atoms, or there are trillions of glial cells, we need numbers like that. And so then they often say, well, you're going to have a hard time understanding it, but I'm going to tell you, it won't be that hard. Just like meditate on this for a long time. That's how you understand what a billion is versus a Google versus a trillion versus a quadrillion, things like that. Just meditate on it for a while. They're saying that the common mind won't understand it if they just briefly flirt with science. But if you kind of reside in this milieu, I think you'll have a better grasp of it. Okay? So don't worry about that. You can understand it if you just kind of spend time in this. But even then, it is difficult, very difficult. So why I'm saying all this is to now introduce you to the cosmic calendar. As far back as our current data shows, the universe is about 13.8 billion years old, right? And if I say that versus however old you are, right, you might be 5 when you're watching this, 15, 50, or 95. It's hard to imagine what does 1 billion years look like? What does 1,000 years look like? When were the Egyptians? When was Jesus? When was Muhammad? When was the scientific revolution? When was Columbus? When was World War II? When was Obama? Like you're trying to find the scale there, right? So what we do instead is, we know that you're pretty familiar with the modern day calendar. Briefly, the calendar was 10 months, and then they added January and February, and the names of them are, right? January is Janus, two-faced, looking forward and back. February, I forget. March is Mars, god of war, right? Beware the Ides of March. April, I think, is for new openings, new beginnings. April, something like that. May is Maya. June is Juno, probably. July is after Julius Caesar. August after Augustus. September, Sept is 7. October, 8. Oct. November, 9, right? Nov. December, Dec is 10. You see? So that was the original until they added the first 2, right? So you and I know that. 12 months, and by whatever age you are, you'll have a grasp of what 30 days feels like, and as you get older, you might feel that time's flying by, things like that, but you have a pretty good grasp of what a year is, and what a week is, what a day is, and how much you can accomplish in that time, all that stuff, how much an hour is, a second. So what we do is, we just take the 13.8 billion years, and we map it out exactly on one full year. And we say that 1 month is this much time. This is saying that the Big Bang happened at exactly midnight, January 1st, like the New Year's being runged in. That is the Big Bang. And we'll go into other episodes about cosmological cyclic cosmology. The hardest part of this theory is remembering and saying the 3 words, but that's Sir Roger Penrose's theory on what came before the Big Bang. If you can even say that there was a before, unless if your time started at the Big Bang, and you have evidence of the Big Bang largely because of the CMBR, the cosmic microwave background radiation. So it starts with the Big Bang, yeah, up until now. So when we strike midnight on January 1st, the next day will be now, right now, when you're watching this now. So if that's the case, there are 37.8 million years in a cosmic day. There's 1.575 million years per cosmic hour. There's 437.5 years in a cosmic second. 437.5 years in a cosmic second. So ready? 1 Mississippi. That's 437.5 years. So you on average will live, at least in America right now, 77. I think for girls it's like closer to 79 years. And in some places it's 89, a little bit older. So that is about a quarter second. So 1 Mississippi. That's the span of your life. That's a quarter second. So that's why the opening quote is Sagan's quote about like a butterfly that flaps its wings and thinks it's forever, but as a human what it really is. And there's some sharks off of Greenland that have now lived 400 to 500 years. I think they have cataracts, so they were here before the Civil War, before Lincoln, before George Washington, before slavery was here, before Columbus. I think it's 0.23 cosmic second is your lifespan, right? So this should give you some pause in life, I think, and it should advise and instruct how to conduct yourself. Like, at least it does me. Like, it helps a little bit. And most people that you meet are walking around not knowing this information, but you and I will, right? So I think it'll advise what you do in life, and even your morality, like it has mine. Who you help up, who you put down. You should be helping out most people, and you should be crushing evil. We have an episode coming up about how if you're choosing to accept my style of life, it's our job to crush evil, to slit its throat. I'll show you how. and to otherwise be affable, magnanimous, and to be helping people up always, right? Because they don't know as much as you. Okay. And then to work, to invent things. So, I think what you'll notice right off the bat, if you take a look at the cosmic calendar up close, and you should revisit this every couple of months or years, whatever you want, is that most of the universe as we know it is just forming. Everything's born from hydrogen, right? So it's just forming stars. Gravitational forces then form galaxies. And from there, as much as we know it, we only know our Earth. So then we'll look at rock formation, the flora, the fauna, complex life, the Cambrian explosion, eukaryotes, prokaryotes, single-cell amoeba, multicellular life, the dinosaurs, cave drawings, paintings, the wheel, the Egyptians, when was Jesus and Muhammad born, then things like the scientific revolution, then things like World War II and Columbus and 9/11 until the modern day. So what you'll notice is the first galaxies are forming around January 26th. The Milky Way is formed around May 13th, between March and May, and our solar system is being formed around September 2nd. So let's take a look at life a little bit closer to the rock you know as Earth, the Terra you know as Earth. So let's look at the calendar here. You have the oxygenation of the atmosphere, thank goodness, October 29th. First multicellular life, December 5th. Fish is December 17th. You have insects and land plants around December 21st. What are you noticing already? 11 months are gone. 11 and a half months are gone. So this should give you some perspective and some pause. And you think about this over your lifetime. When you're a kid, when you're in your 20s, when you get older, and let me know what it informs you to do. If it has any effect. It might not have any effect on you. That's okay. You get dinosaurs on Christmas. December 25th, you get dinosaurs. Tyrannosaurus Rex, as we talk about etymology. What do you think Tyrannosaurus Rex means? You can hazard a guess here if you want to pause. Did you pause? So Tyrannosaurus, right? Tyrant. It's a tyrant. Rex means king, just like regicide or Raju. So it's a tyrannical king, which I freaking love that name for that animal. Tyrannosaurus Rex is such a cool name for an animal. It's the tyrant king. A little bit of etymology there for you. The extinction event of dinosaurs, I think, happens around December 26th. Oh, it's Christmas post when you go return all of the presents you don't want because they're the wrong size or whatever. That's when the meteor comes and hits Mexico, the Yucatan, and you have an extinction event, a mass extinction event. And we'll go through what asteroids hit Earth at what ratio. There's a graph I can show you with the frequency because the asteroids hit Earth all the time. But the size of it is actually proportional to to their frequency. So the big ones are less frequent, and the small ones happen all the time. Flowers start a-bloomin' December 28th. Notice how the year's almost done. You haven't showed up yet. Now it's December 30th, and now you get primates, which is what you are. Primate, but not your version of primate. We're talking the OG primates, like a couple of my uncles and cousins. December 31st at 6:05 in the morning, you're getting apes. That's like a split, I think, between apes, like that branches come off. December 31st, we're on New Year's Eve here, honey. So now we gotta start looking at the clock, and now we're going hour by hour, minute by minute. This is like why it's important to review the cosmic calendar. You get hominids at 2:24 p.m. in the afternoon. Xiaowu, I think that's afternoon. You get primitive humans at 10:24 at night. Primitive humans, like a lot of my relatives and friends. Primitive humans. They're using stone tools. Okay, so now the tools and inventions are very, very basic. It's like watching the start of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Then the domestication of fire. Have you ever thought about that? How to harness fire? Prometheus coming down and giving you fire, but to harness it versus just being this wild thing that you can't control that happens because of lightning when it hits a tree. But you can now create it and you can extinguish it. See how things that you take for granted, like you never think about fire that way, but that's a big deal that we think about when humans learned how to harness fire. And by the way, like the timing of that changes. There's a recent article that I read about how they showed fire was being made deep within caves a lot earlier than we expected. So this information can move. As we may find out that the universe is a lot older than we think, then the cosmic calendar has to change. That's okay. That's like a part of science, is that like the data, the conclusions that we draw can change based on new data. This is what most people can't handle because they just want a black and white answer. This is a permanent answer. But in science, nature doesn't care about you and what you want. It'll just say, here's the data and good luck, first of all, finding it and then deciphering it. And then you can draw conclusions about it. Even at the Big Bang, we don't have proof of the actual Big Bang. We just see the expansion rate, which is accelerating. So that means that it all should have been drawing from a point, and we have the CMBR. So we then theorize, well, then there must have been like a singularity that exploded. That's why it's called the Big Bang theory, not the Big Bang fact, because we're still working on it, right? And if you're okay with that, then science is a lot of fun. If you're not okay with that, then I don't know. Go do something else, which is what everyone else is doing. Just go do something else. Anatomically, modern humans are December 31st at 11:52 p.m. We have only 8 minutes until midnight, honey bunny. So you haven't showed up yet. Like you're like the way that you and me now, everything, complex machines, like a light, like the harnessing of electricity. A complex digital camera, a watch that is working, like a pen. These are all your tools. These are all your complex things. A shirt that's been made, mass-produced. Shaving with a razor that has to be designed. Like everything has to be designed here, okay? The most recent glacial period was at December 31st at 11:55. Sculpture and painting is at 11:58. Agriculture is at 11:59. 32 seconds left. The end of the Ice Age, 33 seconds left. See how we're in the last minute of the entire cosmic year. 60 minutes times 24 times 365, that many minutes, but we're in the last one. And of that minute, now we're going to parse that out for each second of that minute. Stonehenge, the Bronze Age, Egypt shows up. The Indus Valley civilization, which is not our genetic history, but we have a connection to them. The Indus Valley becomes India, becomes Hindu, which is not what we are, but Hindu, that's all from that word, I believe. Indus Valley region. Indus, India, Hindu. So, the wheel, Code of Hammurabi, the Iron Age. The Buddha, Siddhartha, I forget his name now, but the Buddha older than Jesus and Muhammad. Zoroastrian, my nurse, when he told me his ethnic history, I said, "Are you Zoroastrian?" And his face lit up. He's like, "How'd you know about this?" I was like, "I know things." Also, I think Freddie Mercury is from that group. Confucius, the history of China. Like I'm talking about, the Qing. I'm speaking in Hanyu for you, but this is an old history here. And I even asked my Laoshi, I'm like, do you know about all these dynasties? And she goes, "I think you might know more about China than a lot of the Chinese people here do." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. That's cool. I'll take it." The Roman Empire, Christ, are showing up at 55 seconds. So there's only 5 seconds left, babe, till midnight. You're not here yet. I'm not here yet. Muhammad, 56 seconds. Columbus, 58 seconds. The Renaissance, modern history. The final second of the final minute of the final day in the entire 365 cosmic calendar. The final second. Now we're going to parse that out, okay? And with 0.9 seconds left to go, you have my boy Copernicus. I love Copernicus. I'm going to talk to you all about him. I have a company down the line that I wanted to build that's called Copernicus. And I'm not sure if I'm going to make it because it's a little too complicated, but I love Copernicus. And we're going to have a whole episode about him. The Industrial Revolution is showing up around half a second left. World War II, World War I is happening with 0.18 seconds left. The year 2000, the digital revolution, the 9/11 attacks are just up to this last 0.05 second, I think. No, 0.05. Yeah, 0.05 second left. And now here we are. Because 1 second is 435 years. So the scientific revolution was about 500 years ago. So the scientific revolution is about 1 second ago. And then you show up. And then we can do a calendar for what is expected in the next year, by the way. So that's fun too. There's a cosmic calendar for you, okay? I hope you meditate on it, reflect on it. Let me know what your thoughts on it. You're curious to see how your mind works with it, and maybe you'll have vantage points that you can enlighten me about, and I'll be like, wow, that's awesome. I never thought about it that way. So that's like the really cool thing about learning and science and sharing light and knowledge. Okay? The next couple episodes we'll do like the Overton window, and we'll talk about biology and human biases and the Dunning-Kruger effect, just like things that I think you can use as a tool or an instrument to look at life more accurately, and you can think about it at different eras of your life, and I think they'll mean different things from it at those points. Alrighty? One thing that it has an effect on me is like when I have such an issue with the city of New York, not personally, but I see people's excitement going there and how they think it's like the big city and all this stuff. But, I know from the overview effect, even if you fly by it, it looks like a toy city. Like it doesn't look real. It looks so small. But when huge things happen there, when you're walking the streets of it, you feel like, well, I'm in the big city. So I have an issue with some people who brag about it like it's the entire universe, when you and I know it's like that's even the Earth you wouldn't be able to see if you're flying by. It's just a speck, like a pale blue dot, which we'll go through in another episode. That's another one of Sagan's quotes. I have an issue with these things where people are like, and even Seinfeld has a joke. He goes like, humans just want to be on top of each other until we're all just olives in a jar. He goes, with New York, when we're having issues finding space and rents are increasing, he goes, have you ever flown by? There's nothing but space everywhere. Which I know, as a hunter and as a flyer, as a pilot and as a sailor, there's nothing but space everywhere. So this housing crisis or rent going up, it's about humans like wanting to be next to each other. And for somebody to be like, well, you're brave, like you're going to the city, I think it's also more brave to maybe be in like the Alaska frontier or in the hinterland of Iceland or Montana, where it's just you on a farm by yourself. Those men and women are also really brave to me, maybe even braver because it's just you and you're like solitude. So, there are ways to think about this. I'm trying to give you, perspective. As you see the cosmic calendar, you can go in and out and be like, my life matters, my day matters, right now this matters, but in the great span, what's going on here? That same thing you can apply to other things. When I see New York City, I'm like, all right, like I love it, and I think it's an engineering marvel, and I think it's beautiful, and I love the city. But for somebody to be like, act like it's a city, this is a city, I'm like, okay, buddy, let's get you some perspective here. I have a quote, one of a few quotes that my friends really liked. In the great span of space-time, the distance between two objects approaches zero, while the bond that can be formed approaches infinity. In the great span of space-time, the distance between two objects, between two friends, approaches zero, while the bond that can be formed approaches infinity. And my friend Nisha really loved that quote when I was younger. What I was trying to say by that was when you're thinking about going to go see your friend or your family or me when I get older, if you're living somewhere far away, or like your kids or whoever you want to see and you form a bond with, go do that thing. Go book the flight. Go get in the car and go do that drive. Go through the process, even if it's not that great. Just see what arises from it. Because the bond that can be formed, the love, which we can't quantify exactly scientifically, what that is, we have some ideas, but what love is, you can't quantify that love. Like I can't put a number on it. But for you to drive cross country, or to book a flight cross country, or to go halfway around the world, and especially now, you can go halfway around the world in the same day. You can leave here in the morning and be in India by this evening. That distance and that effort approaches zero in the great span of space-time as I give you this, cosmic perspective about you on this Earth, in this solar system, in this galaxy, amongst many galaxies, in this whole universe. That distance is approaching zero. But the bond that can be formed, the love that can be had there, approaches infinity. And one day that'll be gone, and it'll just be a memory to you. Your grandparents, your parents, your friends, your spouse, your kids, your animals, your coworkers, bosses, schoolmates, classmates, teachers, whatever relationship you have, even with inanimate things like rocks and mountains and trees and the ocean, the bond that can be formed there approaches infinity, and it's unquantifiable so far. And the distance between you and that thing, you and that human, you and that friend who want to get together for brunch, want to get together for a cocktail, want to get together to go dancing, you want to sew with your grandma, I don't know what people do, but whatever you want to do to hang out, that approaches infinity. All right? I'm trying to give you like a perspective, at the small and at the large. And when we talk about general relativity and quantum mechanics, we'll see how that affects the large and the really small. From black holes and gravitational waves to the Planck length and the attosecond, things like that. All right, baby. All right, hope you're having a good day. This is the Cosmic Calendar. I like how I tried to do this in under like 5 minutes, and I think we're on hour 9. All right, I love you and I love you. Bye-bye.